Hello, and welcome to round 2 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast. I'm Terri Morrow, and I'm here with Catherine Halecko. Say hi, Catherine.
Hello.
Usually on this podcast, we talk about parenting issues, but once a week, Catherine and I like to get together to discuss TV, movies, books, and other entertainment topics because it's nice to talk about something other than parenting for a change. This week, we are going to be coming to the end of our Parks and Recreation Marathon. Has it only been 7 seasons worth of episodes? And we are also going to be talking about the West Wing episode Mandatory Minimums and the West Wing Weekly episode about it. But first, the cast for the latest season of Dancing with the Stars was announced this morning. Catherine, does this make you look forward to September 12th when the new season starts? Or do you think we're going to have a situation like this season so you think you can dance on our hands where we watch it 2 weeks and say, yeah, kitchen.
We're done. No, I mean, I'm excited. I think the issues that we had with So You Think You Can Dance were different. So, because we're dealing with small children. So I'm hopeful that, I mean, this is a predictably motley crew of people.
Yeah, we can't be surprised about that anymore because it's a typically Dancing with the Stars assemblage of quote stars unquote.
Right. So we'll enjoy seeing how they do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm interested to watch Lori Hernandez, who's the gymnast.
Yes.
She might be my favorite one out of the list.
She's my early rooting interest. I just enjoy her smile and her energy. I know whenever there's a picture of them all out doing something, she's right in it. You know, there's a picture that went around social media of Beyonce meeting all the girls at the VMAs, and after she gave Lori a hug and moved on to the next one, Lori is just like, had the biggest smile in the world. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened.
That was actually Beyonce. Oh my
and when Zac Efron came and visited them in Rio, you know, the other ones were kind of going, oh my gosh, it's Zac Efron. And she walked right up and put her arms out. So she's a spirited girl, and I hope that she will have a great time with it and really know how to play the game and have fun. I was a little worried in the Good Morning America thing. When she first came out, she seemed a little subdued. They had her hair straightened, and she seemed to be styled like to within an inch of her life. Mm-hmm. But I saw the inner excited 16-year-old break through a few times. So I think she can take them.
Yeah, I mean, she could definitely be a Bindi type of just enthusiastic, adorable kind of.
Yeah, if they know what's good for them, Dancing with the Stars people, which there's absolutely no evidence that they do. But if they do, they need to just handle her as little as possible. Just let her be herself. OMG, this is so amazing, girl.
Right.
So who else stands out? Anybody else stand out in the crowd to you?
So we have the person from, what's the name of the show? Little
Women L.A.
Little Women L.A.
My daughter watches that. I do not.
Okay.
But yes, I will be interested in her. And she's 4'2", and got as entertaining as it might have been to see her with Keo, she got the shortest pro, I believe, Sasha, who is adorable. And that should be interesting. I always appreciate the way this show includes people with physical differences.
Yeah.
So I always tend to root for those folks also. Mm-hmm. So I hope that she is interesting and into it and does a good job and is not full of attitude as reality TV people sometimes
are. Yeah. And then I guess the Geraldo chair will be filled by Rick Perry.
I do believe so. That seems like a good guess.
What? I ask you, what is in it for him to do this?
He said, I saw on Twitter that he is interested in advancing the causes of veterans and that he is going to use this platform to do that.
Okay.
So we shall see. But that apparently is what is in it for him. We all know what's in it for Ryan Lochte, so the less said about that, the better.
Yeah.
What I said about that they should handle Lori as little as possible, they should handle him as much as possible. Somebody said that his GMA appearance, it seemed like they had loaded like 5 sound bites and he just did those over and over again.
Out, right.
I think that's a good way to handle it. Probably the less he thinks for himself, the better.
Right. give him a script.
Yes. Right. Yes. Oh, well, Cheryl should keep him on a pretty short leash.
Okay.
There was some speculation. I've been reading Dancing with the Stars gossip on Twitter all week in anticipation. And in fact, I'm on a Facebook group, and somebody posted that she had put together a Twitter list that you could follow of all these gossip sites. So I will put a link to that on our thing for this podcast for those who wish to obsess.
Yes.
It's extremely entertaining. But there was a little thought for a while that Ryan Lochte's partner was going to be Whitney, and they were calling this, I believe, Team Dumpster Fire.
Oh my goodness.
But that did not that would have been fun, I think, the two of them together. But I think they decided to have a grown-up be in charge of him. And that's, I think, a good plan. Anyway, who else? Mary Lou Henner.
Yeah.
Would be very good. I'm not sure about her personality-wise, but she's got the goods for dancing. I think she was a dancer earlier in her career, and I think she's got some moves. So it will be interesting to see how she does. The fact that they've given her to Derek indicates that they think she can dance pretty well, I think.
Right.
Because he usually...
Well, wasn't she a dancer at some
I believe
point
she
in
was,
her career?
Yeah. She was a stage dancer early on. And I looked on her Wikipedia page, and they said, her parents ran a dance school, and she started taking dance classes when she was a little kid. Mm-hmm. As we see with many of these people, and folks cry ringer. So...
That's life sometimes.
Maureen McCormick, on the other hand, I don't know. I will wish her well.
Yeah.
My daughter is excited for Jake T. Austin, who was on Wizards of Waverly Place, which she used to watch. Every promo picture I have seen of this kid looks like his mother sent him to do this instead of cleaning his room. He looks so miserable. Do I have to do this? Really? Really? Okay. So Jenna is his partner, and she's just coming off of So You Think You Can Dance, where she was working with a little kid. So I guess this one is at least close to her height, which is probably be a happy thing, because I remember her doing ballroom with some little pipsqueak, and it was, adorable but disturbing. So, I wish her luck, but I hope that kid learns how to smile, because otherwise he's going to be no fun to watch, and people like that don't last very long.
Right, and they need that generation
need that
voting for him. Otherwise,
so you know what? Lori might get a lot of those, because she's 16, and she's cute and fun, and the kind of person who you want to be your best friend. So that might get a lot of the. Who's your daughter? Your daughter hasn't looked at this list yet.
No.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to let us know next week who she is interested in seeing there.
Yeah.
Well, many of them I really don't know much about at all. So.
Yeah, me either.
It seems like a group that could either be interesting and come along well, or just be a whole big bag of Geraldos. So.
big bag of Geraldos.
So we'll see what happens. I am excited for the debut. It's always so fun and cheesy and silly and ridiculous. That I need a little of that in my life.
Yes.
But
and that is coming up on September 12th, everyone.
That is, yes, September 12th at 8 p.m. on ABC. But now moving on to something that is ending instead of starting. Yes. We have been doing for quite some time a Parks and Recreation Marathon. I am watching it again. Catherine has been watching it for the first time. And we are now up to the last 4 episodes of the short 7th season, which started out 3 years in the future. In 2017, which was 3 years in the future when this was on.
Right.
And then in the last episode went all the heck over the place into the future.
Yes.
So before we get to that one, the first episode we watched was Primary, which I think kind of started out like something we've seen a lot, which is taking sort of a issue that's been in politics of, the wife of the candidate is refusing bacon. She hates all women.
Right.
But I I kind of roll my eyes when that sort of thing comes up again because it's such an easy target.
Mm-hmm.
I did sort of like how it mushroomed from there. That
right.
If they didn't do the pie contest, they were going to be in trouble with one faction. If they did do it, they were going to be in trouble with another faction. And then when he decided to do it, they were in trouble with another faction. So that sort of spun it out into absurdity a little more interestingly than just poking a easy target.
Right.
And we got another Ron on another scavenger hunt, which is always fun.
Right, and some more Jen Barkley.
Yes! And her absolute horror at the way Ben and Leslie live.
Right, because
is that the one where she wore a poncho to be in their house?
I think that is the poncho one, and it came in handy because
it did.
Otherwise, she would have been covered with paint. So,
yes. And then the second episode we watched was the Johnny Karate Super Awesome Musical Explosion Show, which was not so much an episode of Parks and Rec as an episode of Andy's children's TV show.
Right.
To greater and lesser effect. But it seemed like a good send-off for that character.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to see how all the other characters have been allegedly incorporated into the Johnny Karate show.
Yes.
Make something with Ron or learn something with Professor Smart Brain, who is actually Ben.
Right.
So that kind of stuff was fun.
It was very cute. And, when we discussed this last week, I told everybody to take note of the commercials as, of the first ones going out of the show, forgetting that nobody is watching it with real commercials anymore because we're all watching it on Netflix or DVDs. But when we watched this the first time, the commercial breaks were actual commercial breaks. Mm-hmm. So you would get this fake commercial and then a real commercial. So it was wait a minute, what? Oh, wait, that's part of the show. And conversely, there was at that time a movie with Liam Neeson. I can't think of what it was, but it was something like, you've hurt my child and I will get revenge on you. And it was so cheesy, this ad, that I was certain it was a made-up ad for the episode, but it was not. It was a real movie. It just completely threw me off because it seemed like it was such a barrel of cliches.
And given all of the stars and celebrities that have guested or cameoed on this show, it's you wouldn't not expect that, hey, Liam Neeson could be one of them.
I was so disappointed to find out that it was a real ad. But I did love the ads that they have, especially the Punch Burger.
Yes.
Put this in your body or you're a nerd. And most favoritely, and this was one you really did not realize was made up until you got to the punchline. The Verizon Chipotle Exxon, proud to be one of America's 8 companies. That was just put together so beautifully and so believably. It looked absolutely like one of those ads. And it also set up what is, I think, my second term of endearment on this show after I love you and I like you, was Andy saying to April, "You're my Verizon Chipotle Exxon." So...
And in the skipping ahead for a second, but to the very last scene where, last episode where Leslie is giving Chris Traeger a whole list of things he can say about Anne, about her, like magical unicorn fairy or whatever, all of her things that she says. But,
that was so fun. Yes. Before we got to that one, though, there was an episode, Two Funerals, where the mayor of Pawnee dies. And it turns out all this time it's been Bill Murray.
Mayor Gunderson.
Who knew? So that was a fairly hilarious, extremely taped someplace else cameo. And, well, maybe not. Maybe he came to the office. But anyway, he did not interact one-on-one with anybody. And nice speech at the I guess it was The Wake by Ethel Beavers, who we've had as a recurring character. It turns out was having a torrid affair with the mayor.
Revealing her 46-year-long torrid affair.
Very nice send-off for that character, I would have to say. And on a less torrid note, Tom and Lucy finally got engaged. And, very sweet and nice that Tom is growing up enough that he recognizes that probably the caper at the jewelry store is not the right way to propose.
Right. Even though Leslie is very eager to help him with it.
Yes. That poor jewelry store guy. Recurring
He's
poor
been
jewelry
through a
store
lot.
guy. He's been through a lot with them.
Yes,
And then Gary becomes the mayor.
Yes.
And
returns to his actual name.
Yes. That I think that happened at the wedding, right? Where Donna, I think, gives him that gift of his name back. And Ron loses his barber.
Yes.
The second funeral.
But it was quite charming how Donna then had him see her hairdresser Typhoon.
That's right.
And we thought, oh, this will never, ever work. But
and
actually,
common ground.
They did.
Which was the episode where Donna was being really, really kind to Gary. He had lost his stuff down the grate, and she was just sitting and watching him, and then she winds up getting all his stuff for him. And
I think that was in that two funerals.
Was it? It had to be either that or in Pie Mary. It might have been in Pie Mary.
Yeah, maybe it was.
Anyway, that was very sweet.
Oh, yeah, it was Pie Mary.
Yeah. So anyway, then we move on to One Last Ride, which was the double-length finale, and in which we see the future of all our main characters and a few marginal ones. As Leslie says goodbye to people and clasps their hand or hugs them, we flash into the future and see scene or scenes to come for them. What did you think of that?
Well, I liked it. I mean, it is a little cheesy, but I like a book or a movie or a TV show that gives you all of that.
I do too.
I like a lot of closure and, stuff like that. Like they did in the last book of Harry Potter and in some other, sometimes in movies where you get the little one page. Here's what ended up happening to those people. I thought it was a lot of fun and some interesting little twists and updates on people's lives. So
yeah,
I enjoyed it.
I mean, it was absolutely fan service over an actual funny and planned out episode. No, I mean, it was funny and planned out also, but it was definitely intended to leave people who had been on this journey with knowing that the people they love will be okay.
Right.
And I like that a lot. I really do. It was fun. I was trying to remember, we were talking about various recurring characters as we've gone through. And I think I thought that Shauna Malwae-Tweep got an ending in this episode, and she didn't. But there's a producer's cut. And in the producer's cut, in case you were worried about Shauna, she gets left at the altar, and she goes and sits at a park bench, and Bobby Newport sits next to her, and the two of them hit it off, which is really kind of perfect.
Yes.
So, and I think also Jam gets a comeuppance of some sort in the future. He winds up as a hibachi chef someplace.
Oh yeah, he wasn't.
He wasn't. So they were all there originally.
Okay.
And then some of them had to get cut.
Right.
But I always really liked that one with Shauna and Bobby. I wanted to mention that for people who were, wondering whatever happened to her.
Yeah.
So that was a very, very heartwarming episode. I think it was fairly well received at the time.
How did you receive it at the time?
I don't remember at the time. I think I enjoyed it. I think I liked it. The only one of the future things that I feel at all uncomfortable with was Andy and April and the having a baby situation, which seemed like it did not bother me. I felt it might bother some people, and that bothered me. Some people would be bothered by it. I think they could have scripted it differently, but it just really seemed like Andy wanted a baby, so April had to go along with it, even though she's never been the sort of person you would expect to want to do that. I don't think it had to be that way. I don't think that's the way they intended it, but I think that's kind of the way it came off.
Right.
So that was too bad. I wish they could have come up with some different way to do that, because it sort of leaves me with a little bit of discomfort about them. Right. But, if you just assume that what Leslie said to April made sense and that she decided this is what she wanted to do, we just hope that. I thought it was hilarious that she was cool with all the things that would happen to her body. She just didn't want to deal with the baby afterwards. Right. That was very April.
Yes.
But other than that, I've read a lot of analysis of whether we think that Ben or Leslie is president when they're at Gary's funeral.
Right.
Where his name is misspelled on the tombstone because of course it isn't. And Christy Brinkley looks exactly the same.
Yes, she's 100 years old, but you won't. Still looks like she's 40.
Yes, but there seemed to be a deliberate lack of specificity in who the Secret Service agent was addressing when he said they had to go. So you could kind of decide who you want it to be. But it seemed likely that one of them was.
Yeah. Well, I think Leslie.
I think it's got to be Leslie. Well, in her speech, she was talking about the next challenge ahead. So before they named a library after her.
And then she was like, a library. Thanks a lot. Yeah. I just think that since Ben decided that he wanted her to run for governor, it just sort of set up that, he wants to kind of be in the backseat and at least he wants her political career to take precedence.
Yeah.
So.
Which is very Ben-like.
It is.
Sweet. That was a very sweet scene where he just, not unpredictable, but still sweet. And I like how much he geeks out about his game. That's like it's the 7th most popular multiplayer game sequel or something like that.
Right.
So perhaps he has gone on to a great career in making punishingly intricate games.
Weird games. Oh, Ben.
So that is the end of Parks and Rec. How did you feel about it overall?
Oh,
I hope you're glad you watched it.
I am glad I watched it. I really enjoyed it. And over the weekend, I was traveling and I heard more than one reference to Parks and Rec. And I was like, if I hadn't watched, I would not know what these people were talking about. One person was, what's the Wi-Fi password here? Oh, it's Duke Silver. So, that would have meant nothing to me if I hadn't watched
and
this.
the sweetness of Leslie setting Ron up with his absolutely ideal, perfect job.
Yes.
That was very nice. Possibly not realistic, but very nice.
Yeah, but it just the whole series has such a good heart. It's such a it just has a sweetness to it throughout that is very appealing.
Yeah. The sweetness was turned up for this last episode.
Yeah, that's true.
I like that. That's fine. That's the part of it I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
it still remains funny throughout.
Yes, and true to the characters mostly.
Mm-hmm.
So now we are going to be moving on. For those of you who are watching along with our marathons, and we hope you are, we are going to be watching the much shorter run of Sports Night.
Yeah.
Which is only 2 seasons and therefore not as much of a commitment. However, we are watching it concurrently with The West Wing, so we're getting a Aaron Sorkin double feature. Comedy, drama, lots of banter.
Yes.
So Sports Night is not, sadly, on Netflix. It is offered free on ABC's website, and we will give you a link for that in the description of this episode on parentingroundabout.com. Sadly, the free ABC thing has tons of commercials, but just hit the mute button and then get back into it. Or get a DVD. You may be able to get the DVDs from your library. I think, Catherine, you said you have them at your library.
Yes, they do.
And I'm not sure if you have Hulu, if they have it on Hulu, or they may even be on YouTube.
Oh.
So look around, see if you can find them. It is, again, one that I have watched and loved, and Catherine has not. So we'll be introducing you to the humorous side of walk and talks and endless, extremely dense patches of dialogue.
Right. And I have seen an episode here or there. I'm not completely unaware, but I really haven't watched it, consistently. So, and
also, since we're listening to Josh Molina's podcast about The West Wing, we can now see him show his comedic chops as Jeremy Goodwin.
Right.
So we will be starting that up next week. And in the meantime, speaking of West Wing, let's go on to, we watched Mandatory Minimums this week, in which we met Toby's ex-wife, quite delightfully.
Yes. And then they had her on the podcast as well.
Yes.
So that was fun.
Very fun. She always looked like she was having a good time. in her various appearances on the show, playing off of him, kind of tweaking him.
Right. Yeah. Other than that, I feel like, I don't know, this one wasn't my favorite. Nothing particular that was wrong with it or that I disliked, but I don't know. It just, I thought that at the very end, the president is sleeping in the residence and people keep coming in to his bedroom until like the entire staff is in there and they're all talking to him and they're like, oh, you're awake. Okay, great. Here's what come out with something. But then at the very end, he kind of tells them to drop all of their grudges and, doghouse holding of various people. And I mean, did he even know? Like, how did he know that? I understand he knew about Mandy, that they were shunning Mandy because of her memo that she had written.
But how did he know about Danny?
How did he know about Danny and CJ? And then he just tells her to knock it off, which right, she needed to hear. And I think he was right, but it just made him be like this, wise old man.
Like he read the script,
Yeah, and the rest of them just kind of looked like children that he was disciplining. And I guess I didn't care for that piece. I mean, I thought he was right and they needed to hear that.
Yeah.
But just the way it was done, it came off as a little bit patronizing or something.
Yeah, I see that. And, Josh sort of bumbling around Joey Lucas again. I know on the West Wing Weekly they're trying not to get into anything that happens in future episodes, but I don't think this is too spoilery because it's a clear thing about his character. At one point in the second season, he explains to somebody that he missed the part where you learn how to do this, where you learn how to flirt and you learn how to date. He was had to work so hard on his studies to get where he wanted to go that he just that piece never got put into place. And so he's still and that seems really, I keep thinking of that now when he's unable to
right.
Say, hey, you want to go out? Bumbling around. So that seems to be, so I wish they had moved that conversation earlier. So we would have had that insight on him and not just thought, what the heck is wrong with this guy? And I do like the scene that Leo does in the press room with the staffers.
Yes.
That is a very powerful work for theater. But, it's interesting. I didn't watch these episodes, this first season. I didn't watch it when it was happening. I didn't catch up with this show until the last episode of this first season, which we're going to get to in a couple of weeks. And I had heard sort of what was going to happen in that episode, and I thought that sounded interesting. So I was going to watch that to see how they did that. And then I was hooked. And then I started watching, and at some point I got the DVDs to the first season and I watched it. So by the time I watched these episodes, I was already in love with these characters and I already knew them really well. So I haven't had the experience of watching it unspoiled the whole season. So it could be that, as you say, it didn't feel that way to me, but I can see where you would have felt that way. And it's definitely, the season's taken its time building to where it needs to be at the end of the season. And that's when things take off to a certain degree. Right. So, anyway, next week, what is the episode we have up for next week?
It's
Lies, Damn Lies, and Statistics?
Yes.
Okay. And that is that the next to last of this season?
Yes, it is.
There can't be too many more.
No, that's it.
We're spinning our wheels pretty hard, so there can't be any more.
There's this, there's that one, and then the next one will be the
next one.
Season finale.
What kind of day has it been? Which is the title of many Sorkin episodes, so it's easy to remember.
Oh.
He uses it a lot. But anyway, so we will be, please watch Lies, Damn Lies and Statistics with us and listen to the West Wing episodes about it. This one with mandatory minimums also had somebody who was an expert on mandatory minimums talking about it, and that was trying to get us a little educated on these things. So it's a good podcast and worth following. as is this one, we hope.
Yeah.
And that is going to be it for our Round 2 today. Please subscribe to our Parenting Roundabout podcast so you won't miss any of our episodes, including our daily speed rounds and weekly group chats. As always, you can find recaps, links, and an opportunity to comment on our website at parentingroundabout.com. Goodbye, Catherine.
Bye, Terri.
Goodbye, everybody.